A reincarnated man awakens inside a dangerous fantasy world where shadowy monsters roam forests, immediately facing deadly threats beyond imagination everywhere. A frightened young nun encounters the approaching creatures, revealing the world's constant danger while unexpected fate draws both together. Suddenly realizing survival alone cannot protect everyone, the reincarnated man resolves to change destiny and prevent the world's destruction through decisive action completely. He unleashes overwhelming magical power, crushing attacking monsters instantly, and shielding the terrified girl before overwhelming enemies can strike again successfully. Although confused about everything surrounding him, he remains determined to uncover the truth while protecting innocent lives from future dangers. After defeating the monsters, Alba regrets exposing his strength while protecting the frightened girl, knowing attention threatens the peaceful life he planned. His memories confirm the world matches a popular dating action game centered around the prestigious Kriana Royal Academy and countless branching routes. Players freely shape events through battles and decisions, allowing different outcomes while exploring the academy, meeting allies, and confronting dangerous magical beasts. The game also offers romance with heroines, creating numerous endings depending entirely on choices made throughout every important encounter and adventure. Alba remembers the arrogant villain appears across every route, constantly obstructing progress and creating unavoidable conflicts before ultimately meeting his destined downfall. Alba Eretia is introduced as a powerful duke's son whose arrogance, cruelty, and strength make him the protagonist's ultimate destined enemy forever. Instead of chasing power or status, Alba chooses isolation, living peacefully inside remote mountains far from the academy and noble society. 3 years pass quietly as Alba enjoys simple farming, appreciating his peaceful routine while avoiding every event connected to his original fate. His secluded lifestyle continues without interruption, allowing him to forget noble responsibilities and the dangerous destiny awaiting beyond the mountain paths. After reincarnating, Alba gradually realizes he awakened inside the game's villain, prompting him to abandon everything and escape his predetermined downfall. Alba appears throughout Kriana fantasy as the unavoidable villain, kidnapping the saint and blocking every hero's progress relentlessly across routes. Sometimes he steals heroines away, acting as a rival, spreading fear wherever he appears, manipulating others, without remorse, constantly alone. Eventually corruption consumes Alba, turning him into a destructive force threatening the academy, and everyone regardless of the route always. Every storyline ends with Alba causing disasters, claiming power, treasures, or territories before facing inevitable defeat, despite overwhelming strength alone. Remembering the game's recurring villain, the reincarnated man realizes he has become Alba, accepting his terrible fate with disbelief immediately. Alba realizes every storyline guarantees his death, leaving no escape because every route eventually ends with the villain's inevitable defeat. Always, whether battling the protagonist or pursuing darker ambitions, every possible path leads Alba toward destruction regardless of choices or overwhelming strength. Overwhelmed by despair, Alba refuses accepting meaningless death, determined to discover another path instead of waiting helplessly for fate's cruel judgment. He decides surviving requires abandoning his destined role, leaving noble life behind before the game's deadly events can ever begin completely. Secretly gathering valuables, Alba escapes his family's mansion and heads toward the countryside, determined to survive through isolation and peaceful living. 3 years pass peacefully as Alba survives in a small mountain cottage, believing hard work and isolation have saved him. However, fate returns when Celia unexpectedly visits his home, reminding Alba that destiny still follows every step he takes forward. Celia Margaret cheerfully delivers a letter, unaware her presence already connects Alba with the game's dangerous future events. Again unintentionally, Alba laughs naturally despite recognizing Celia as a heroine, hoping friendly distance will prevent unwanted changes to fate ahead completely. After apologizing kindly, Alba reminds himself avoiding close ties remains essential, because survival depends on escaping every dangerous story trigger. Alba worries Celia's growing closeness could trigger the fatal destiny awaiting him, despite enjoying their peaceful life together every day. A revered scientist possesses miraculous healing abilities and disaster foresight, making her influence dangerous for Alba's survival plans ahead. Always, Alba recalls everything began half a year earlier after settling quietly beside his mountain home and tending simple crops daily. Villagers accepted Alba as ordinary, while rumors about his family faded, allowing peaceful shopping and steady farming without pursuit yet. Alba suspects resentment toward his former self protected his disappearance, strengthening his determination to keep living quietly from now onward. Alba hears distant screams while working, immediately stops, scans the mountains, and realizes dangerous trouble is unfolding somewhere nearby today. Guards desperately protect a saintess before masked attackers slaughter them, leaving her frozen alone among fallen companions in terror silently. Assassins surround the frightened saintess with drawn blades, trapping her after eliminating every escort nearby without mercy or escape possible. An unknown warrior suddenly crashes into the battlefield, intercepting the fatal strike and blasting enemies away before they could succeed. Alba watches the chaotic rescue with confusion as explosive attacks overwhelm assassins and leave the stunned scientists searching for answers. Alba steps before the terrified scientists, warning the surrounding assassins that attacking a helpless girl is completely unacceptable, despite the overwhelming danger. The scientist suddenly recognizes Alba from distant memories, making him realize she belongs among the story's important heroines tied to his dangerous fate. Alba regrets meeting another central heroine because avoiding every major character was his only plan for escaping the deadly future awaiting him. More assassins rush toward them, forcing Alba to accept destiny's pursuit while the frightened scientist desperately urges escape before the enemies close in. Alba unleashes a powerful blast that overwhelms the charging attackers, deciding protecting the scientist now matters, despite risking the fatal future he feared. Alba reflects on months of harsh training, mastering magic to survive while accepting the burden of defeating the assassins threatening his predetermined fate. He strengthens his resolve, promising himself to resist every deadly challenge ahead, instead of surrendering to the destiny waiting for him. After the battle, Alba checks on the scientist and apologizes because her companions died. Despite his efforts to protect everyone, the overwhelmed scientist finally breaks into tears, unable to hide the fear, grief, and exhaustion she carried throughout her difficult journey. Alba realizes her painful confession explains everything, strengthening his determination to protect her despite the dangerous fate still pursuing them both. The scientist explains that her high position attracts enemies seeking power, forcing innocent people to sacrifice themselves whenever they try protecting her. Alba realizes her suffering is genuine, not a fictional story, and decides he cannot ignore the frightened girl standing before him. The scientist breaks down, admitting she only wants a peaceful life without fear, while Alba quietly comforts her and listens carefully. Alba gently pats her head, giving reassurance through simple kindness, and the scientist gradually calms as his presence eases her despair. Believing she should not remain alone, Alba warmly invites the scientist to stay at his mountain home, leaving her surprised but hopeful. Alba admits he barely understands the scientist's hardships, yet recognizes her efforts and encourages her to rest, instead of carrying endless burdens alone. The scientist realizes Alba truly sees her as an ordinary person, and his sincere concern begins easing the pain she has hidden. Alba believes she deserves freedom from her cruel destiny and offers her a chance to escape instead of suffering without hope. Alba reaches out his hand, inviting the scientist to leave everything behind and begin a new life alongside him, despite uncertain dangers. The scientist accepts Alba's offer with renewed hope, taking his hand while Alba quietly accepts the risks that accompany protecting her future. Alba introduces himself to Celia, hoping her future will hold more smiles than tears as they begin trusting each other. 6 months later, Celia happily smiles at their peaceful home after receiving a long-awaited reply from her father. The Pope, Celia shyly asks Alba to remain beside her, and he warmly embraces her, reassuring her with quiet acceptance and unwavering support. Alba promises to protect Celia until the end, strengthening her confidence and replacing lingering fears with comfort, safety, and hope. Their shared promise deepens their bond, as Alba remains determined beside Celia while she happily accepts their new life together. Celia excitedly showed Alba a school pamphlet, hoping they could visit together. Alba smiled but quietly worried the academy was connected to dangerous events from the future. The academy reminded Alba of the game's tragic storyline, where countless death flags surrounded him, and every decision could lead toward disaster. Celia explained that her father recommended the academy so she could finally enjoy a peaceful, ordinary life despite her difficult past. Her excitement about studying together softened Alba's determination to avoid that dangerous place, making him reconsider his earlier decision. Seeing Celia's genuine happiness, Alba decided supporting her dream mattered more than avoiding the uncertain future awaiting them both. Alba watched Celia cling to him desperately, realizing she dreaded leaving their peaceful home for the academy ahead together reluctantly. Kriana School waited firm as the center of a fantasy realm designed for nobles. Among its key figures was Alba Iretia, a feared antagonist doomed to die regardless of the way taken. After being reborn as Alba, he secluded personally close in the highlands to departure that future. Despite efforts to avoid the academy, events gradually pulled him closer to its towering gates. Ultimately, he arrived at Kriana Academy, greeted by Celia, unable to resist the story's pull. Inside the carriage, Alba surfaced unwell, silently enduring the nausea of trips beside Celia. She kindly gave her lap, oblivious of the staid tension behind his polite decline. Unbeknownst to her, their arrival at the school marked the start of several peril points bound to the story's plot. Celia, with her gentle concern, was one of the central figures tied to his downfall. Despite knowing the risk, Alba still traveled with her, questioning his own decision. Celia handed Alba a letter from her father, unexpectedly addressed to him. Her father, a powerful religious leader, rivaled even the king in influence. Alba dreaded condemnation, imagining holy wrath for harboring the male's daughter. Both he and Celia waited silently, unsure of what the message would reveal. To his relief, the letter contained only sincere apologies and heartfelt thanks. Outside the peaceful hut, Alba remained still, reading the message that showed Celia's holy lineage. Declared a saint by birth, Celia was bound by fate to serve the teachings of the goddess. Even from a young age, she traveled to visit faithful believers throughout the land. Dangerous roads and difficult terrain never stopped her sacred mission. Through every trial, she extended ease and light to those who had lacked hope. Celia fulfilled her sacred duties with unwavering resolve, never once voicing a complaint to her father. Only afterward did he realize her grin had hooded silent suffering. Behind her quiet exterior, Celia yearned for normal days, silently begging for rescue from the weight of sainthood. In her lowest moment, Alba extended out, providing her a space of peace and calm. Though she stayed a scientist and he a mere outcast, her dad expressed strong gratitude. Celia's dad, once proud and steady, humbly expressed his hope for her to live a regular days. Alba replied softly, promising not to laugh at the sincerity behind those remarks. Surprised by emotion, Alba struggled to speak as Celia beamed, praising her father's kindness. A request soon followed to accompany Celia to Kriana Academy. With that decision, a new chapter awaited them at the kingdom's most prestigious academy. Celia's dad expressed his hope for Alba to stand by her side, recognizing the strength he formerly displayed. Alba believed Celia also wished the same, though she hadn't voiced it aloud. She softly reassured Alba, telling him it was fine, though uncertainty remained in her words. Behind her smile, Alba sensed a hidden desire she was trying to conceal. Rather than agree outright, he warned her how dangerous the academy truly was. Warnings about dangerous men and school days spilled from Alba's mouth, trying to cause her reconsider. Eyes wide with surprise, she called out to him, touched by his concern. Rather than hesitate, she expressed hope of making friends and enjoying the experience. Though he argued about boring studies, her curiosity for new learning shone through. She welcomed the unknown, thrilled by the idea of adventure and change. Side by side, they smiled with shared resolve, choosing to face what lies ahead together. Logic insisted he should prevent the school and its dangers, but his core chose otherwise. Seeing her radiant face, he remembered that delight suited her far more than sorrow. Conviction grew in his gaze as he hugged his reckless decision with a steady heart. While she extended prayers of thanks, he grumbled, part joking about walking into holy doom. A sudden thought crossed his thoughts. Perhaps his arrival in this land wasn't by hope. The letter's final remarks hit him: never cause her cry or face a parent's wrath. Eventually, both placed foot on school grounds encircled by unfamiliar faces and new ways. Awestruck by the towering structure, they could hardly contain their excitement. No image or knowledge could match the overwhelming grandeur standing before them in actual days. Lined across the academy grounds were grand statues of a hero, goddess, and unicorn guardian. Celia admired them with wonder, while Alba tried to recall their connection to the game's plot. To stand safe, he reminded her to call him Al during their moment at Academy. Using a false identity as a knight apprentice, he aimed to dodge the fatal flags ahead. Surrounded by peers, he laughed nervously as Celia teased him, masking the truth behind his past. Thoughts of peril circled his head, especially with his blurred memory of the story's key seconds. Before long, whispers spread around them. Everyone began recognizing Celia as the true scientist. Caught off guard, both froze under the growing attention from nearby students. Cheers erupted, surrounding them in a crowd eager to touch, talk, and befriend her. The overwhelming praise pushed her to tears as voices called her name again and again. Crying welled up as she wished for nothing more than a normal, calm days. Abruptly, a loud surprise scattered the crowd, amazed faces stiff in awe and surprise. Without hesitation, he lifted her in his arms, declaring her presence was as a student, not a saint. His voice rose firm. He vowed to protect her, even if it cost him everything. Onlookers could only stare as the pair walked away, leaving behind a stunned silence. Ale walked beside Celia, exchanging light comments while onlookers misjudged his lord rank. From a distance, a person hesitated, recognizing something known in the pair ahead. Eyes widened in shock. An old acquaintance realized Alba was still alive and nearby. Celia eagerly led the way to the academy, her excitement shining as she called for Alba to follow. Alba remained before the grand entrance, overcome by the memories of a foretold doom awaiting him at this space. Sensing his uncertainty, Celia softly grasped his palm, reassuring him with calm resolve. Her shining grin and unwavering support reminded him he wasn't alone longer. Alba silently vowed to protect her, despite his earlier fear and doubt. Expressed his gratitude, feeling more composed thanks to Celia's calming presence. They walked together through the academy's elegant corridors, the grandeur reflecting its long-standing legacy. Standing before a sacred stained glass mural, Celia offered a silent prayer, hoping to remain close to him. Later, the staff member handed them uniforms and confirmed they were assigned to the same class. Their shared delight packed the room as they celebrated being put together. After receiving their uniforms, Alba and Celia chatted casually while heading outside the academy. Celia suddenly shouted Alba's name aloud, prompting him to remind her of his alias. Al. Before they could move on, a stern female surfaced, questioning Alba's name despite his disguise. The sight of her vivid red locks triggered memories buried close within Alba's head. She was Elena, his childhood friend, a destined heroine, and once his fiancée. Known as a key to Alba's downfall, her presence sparked tension. Celia hastily walked forth, introducing Alba as her knight apprentice and denying any mistaken identity. Elena wasn't convinced, calling out the simplicity of Alba's disguise, merely dropping part of his name. Frustrated, Celia defended him while Alba awkwardly tried to stay composed amid the misunderstanding and emotional swirl. Elena, unfazed, showed she had spread the rumor of his end after he disappeared, intensifying the awkward reunion. Without notice, Elena launched a fierce attack, weapons clashing as Alba stopped her sudden attack. Her words was cold and threatening, alert him to stop pretending or face her filled wrath. Shocked by her intensity, Alba realized she wasn't bluffing. Her eyes were filled with deadly resolve. As Celia yelled in surprise, Elena demanded his name previously again. With memories of his pledge echoing within, he braced to face whatever fate awaited him, no longer willing to flee. Alba replied with steady resolve, stating formally more that he was now Al, standing by his new name. Elena smiled coldly and accepted his words, but promised he'd feel the weight of his deception physically. In a blur of speed, she struck, delivering a punishing blow that sent Alba reeling with a cry. Remembered she was renowned in the game as its deadliest swordswoman. This wasn't a joke. Her piercing gaze showed no hesitation, only sharpened conviction, making it clear she wasn't done yet. Just as Elena's blade came crashing down, Alba instinctively called her name, eyes wide in alarm. A heartbeat afterward, he left from her sight, leaving her attack to slash only empty air. Elena spun, tracking his sudden movement, but Alba had already appeared behind her. In a split-second counter, he caught her blade mid-swing, holding it firmly against his shoulder. Elena froze in disbelief. Her attack had been completely stopped by the very one she'd aimed to punish. Calmly gripping the blade, Alba showed the staid power behind his strength, mana strength. He recalled the basics of elemental affinity from a book. Memories appeared of his story times when exploiting foe weaknesses was key to victory. Closing his eyes, Alba concentrated. A strange sensation welled up as he reached deep within to find his element. Through seasons of focused meditation and constant training, Alba finally awakened to his real attribute, lightning. Alba stood in solitude, channeling his strength to transform every part of his being. A surge of lightning erupted, reducing the rock before him to scorched debris. With mastery over lightning, he now possessed the ability to defy the end flag written in future. Returning to the academy, he stopped Elena's sword and urged her to listen. With honesty in his voice, he apologized, embracing his identity as Al, no longer just Alba. Overwhelmed by conflicting emotions, Elena screamed and slammed her blade into the ground, energy bursting out. Gasps rose from the crowd as both Alba and the scientist vanished without a trace. Left alone, Elena could only watch in silence as the bystanders looked on in disbelief. When asked if she was all right, she hid her shaken heart. Meanwhile, Alba and Celia regrouped in town, laughing nervously though. Her puffed cheeks revealed she wasn't entirely amused. Alba softly checked if Celia was upset, but she only sulked, questioning who Elena even was. Trying to mask her jealousy, Celia insisted she wasn't bothered despite clearly listing Elena's charms. Alba laughed warmly, teasing her with a smile, calling out her obvious lie. Celia bargained to be carried all the way, and Alba obliged without hesitation. As they walked, Alba realized existence at Kriana school was going to be anything but calm. Alba and Celia arrive at a large house in the royal capital, pausing before its tall gate amazed by its size. They compare it to their small mountain cabin, surprised by the luxury. Celia excitedly points out the vegetable garden, thrilled they can continue growing food like before. From above, the house stands out spacious, private, and clearly expensive. Inside, Celia explores eagerly while Alba carries their belongings into their new life. Alba sat on the bed, silently pleased with the peace of their new house. When checked about money, Celia replied with a blank stare she hadn't obtained any. At the dining table, she explained her dad's remarks if she hoped in ordinary days she had to earn it. Alba worried about their finances and insisted he would look for work. Smiling confidently, Celia declared she would support them both. Celia explained that her father had arranged for her to work at the church in the capital. She would serve as a saintess, a role blessed by the goddess and supported through donations. Despite the hardships she endured, her decision stemmed from a desire to help others. However, suspected a hidden motive behind the church's reliance on her presence. Seeing her grin, he moved away his concerns and said nothing. Alba insisted on working too, unable to sit back while Celia handled everything alone. He brushed off her efforts as misplaced and told her to save that care for someone she'd eventually marry. Crushed by his words, Celia tried to hold back her emotions, but her smile faded. She stormed off, saying she'd eat alone, leaving Alba stunned by her sudden anger. Lying on his bed, Alba tried to justify his words, but doubt crept in. Yuri's, the real hero of the story realm, waited as the ideal hero, handsome, aristocrat, and adored by all heroines. Meanwhile, Alba considered on the past 3 seasons, convincing alone that he had no space in Celia's future. Despite that, in the quiet countryside he welcomed Celia warmly. Together, they found joy in the simplicity of harvesting vegetables. Under the open sky, even mundane tasks like cooking and using unfamiliar baths proved shared seconds of chuckle and mastering. Under a star-filled sky, Celia marveled at the peaceful beauty surrounding them. She danced among the flowers, feeling truly relaxed for the first time in her life. With a radiant smile, she called out to Alba, her joy undeniable. Alba, lying alone, told himself he'd accept her departure but admitted he would miss her deeply. Afterward, Celia sent softly, her gaze apologetic, asking for forgiveness with calm sincerity. Alba rested quietly in bed, unaware of the presence beside him. Softly, Celia whispered his name, her tone occupied with calm gratitude. She gently leaned over and thanked him, believing she wouldn't be where she was without his support. As the morning sunlight rose, Alba woke to a calm room and birdsong outside the window. Still groggy, he sat up slowly, puzzled at when he had even fallen asleep. Alba discovered a packed meal and a heartfelt note from Celia, apologizing and heading off to the church. Gratefully, he enjoyed the food, savoring the familiarity of a hamburger in this strange world. Realizing she was already working, he jumped up with renewed resolve to find his own job. His destination was the towering structure of the Adventurers Guild. There, countless missions awaited, ranging from simple tasks to dangerous battles with magic beasts. The Adventurers Guild was filled with hardened fighters, those who sought riches or fame through danger. Alba noted that while adventuring wasn't required in the original game, it was now the fastest way to earn money. A great paying quest to slay a massive mana beast found his attention. Though inexperienced, he felt confident in the strength he had gained over the years. His confidence wavered. However, when veterans laughed, pointing out he wasn't qualified for such a high-level quest. The Guild's adventurer system was built around star ranks earned through completed quests and contributions. Without increasing that rank, high-paying, dangerous missions remained out of reach. Alba was welcomed at the beginner-level reception designated for new adventurers. He registered with determination, fully aware he had to start from the bottom. With a low-star request in hand, Alba prepared to begin his first official quest. Assigned to a beginner herb collection quest, Alba accepted the low reward without complaint. Knowing he had to start small, unable to afford a carriage, he prepared to run the distance on foot. In a flash, his sudden burst of speed startled nearby townspeople as he zoomed past. He sprinted like lightning, confident in his incredible physical strength. Elsewhere, students chatted casually about rent and the burdens of dorm life in the capital, while 2 students discussed their fortune of attending Kriana Academy. Something unexpected stirred the air. A powerful gust swept past them, disrupting the calm street with a sudden burst of wind. One girl stumbled in surprise, unsure of what had just happened, while her friend called it incredible. As they gathered themselves, she turned toward a familiar figure, Yuri's. With a casual smile, he dismissed her concern and urged Alice to keep moving. Alice continued shopping while Yuri's walked beside her, both unaware of the approaching presence. Alba appeared nearby, sensing a known aura that chosen him freeze in space. Their routes finally crossed. Alba and Yuri's met each other in stillness. A hand grasped a cluster of rare herbs nestled among jagged cliffs and dense greenery. The lad knelt triumphantly, his pack filled, completing the herb-gathering quest with ease and a cheerful grin. Days in the remote highlands for 3 seasons had sharpened his instincts and strength back at the guild. He handed over the herbs, surprising the staff with his swift return. They questioned the impossible speed, but he casually claimed he just ran fast, earning his reward without hesitation. Alba reviewed his modest earnings from the herb quest. Meanwhile, Celia addressed a massive crowd, delivering a divine prayer that stirred awe among her followers. Her presence alone inspired joy, and in the same time span, she earned over 10 times more than Alba. Elsewhere, Alba treated himself to ramen. Fascinated by the city's comforts, reflecting on his past, he acknowledged his relatives in the capital stayed remote strangers after he ran away. While finishing his meal, Alba thought on how his relatives never bothered to correct the rumors of his end. He remembered the capital held people like Elena, who knew him a danger he hadn't met in the highlands. Remaining vigilant was crucial. One careless step could trigger a death flag he couldn't foresee. Abruptly, a runaway horse cut through the street, causing turmoil among the startled crowd. A junior maiden froze in fear, unable to move as the beast rushed directly toward her. The girl waited stiff as the raging horse barreled toward her with unstoppable power. In the next instant, a bright blue burst returned between them, halting the beast's charge. She seemed up in disbelief, only to find herself safe. A voice calmly asked if she was all right. Alba stood over the subdued horse, the crowd staring in disbelief at the outcome. Relieved, the girl nodded as Alba smiled, ensuring she hadn't suffered even a scratch. Alba gently apologized to the horse while the girl expressed her gratitude, still shaken from the close call. Her look remained as she questioned about his face, making Alba alarm at the possibility of memory. Cheers erupted from the surrounding crowd, drawing more attention than he wanted. Though reluctant, he had acted instinctively, unable to ignore someone in danger. As the night approached, Alba feared his identity might soon be exposed. A commanding knight arrived, flanked by guards, radiating authority as the crowd fell silent. Recognizing him instantly, the girl called out his name, Duke Roy Arishia, startling Alba. She introduced herself formally, recalling their brief meeting at a past ceremony. While she explained Alba's heroic act, he grew uneasy at the mention of the Arishia name. Roy smiled, offering gratitude, but Alba now suspected he was face to face with his older brother. Alba stood stiffly, mind racing. He couldn't afford to let the Duke discover his true identity. Questioned Alba's silence, prompting awkward tension between the three of them. With a forced grin, Alba politely laughed off the thanks and tried to endure his leave. But as he turned, Roy called out, recognizing a familiar presence in the voice. Alba froze, heart pounding, as Roy mentioned his resemblance to a foolish younger brother. He deflected Roy's request, insisting his face wasn't worthy of a duke's attention. The sharp reply arrived hastily. Roy wasn't asking for permission. He demanded to see it alone. A piercing glare forced Alba to freeze, the command to look ringing louder than expected before Alba could respond. Another words broke in, addressing him by a known nickname. Awareness dawned across their faces as shock and realization collided all at formally. Elena Persia made a confident entrance, greeting Roy with commanding presence. From Alba's perspective, her arrival spelled calamity as alarm rushed through him. He felt cornered, Elena ahead, Roy behind, both capable of uncovering his true identity. Roy questioned Elena, who replied without uncertainty, identifying Alba as a squire called Al. To his surprise, Elena covered for him, casually explaining his lateness like a trusted companion. Roy cast a suspicious glance at Elena, demanding an explanation for her claim. Feigning confidence, she insisted the man was named Al, not Alba. With a quiet grin, Elena reminded them she had formerly been Alba's fiancée. Surely, she wouldn't mistake him. Found between their scrutinizing gaze, Alba waited frozen, silently praying they'd stop digging deeper. Masking his doubt, apologized. Alba forced a grin, pushing it off, though his core sank at hearing, personally dismissed as a disgraced brother, no longer worth remembering. With Alba felt to be long dead, Roy turned his attention to Mina, giving her an aristocrat escort house. Before departing, Mina expressed her gratitude to Al, her eyes bright with respect. As the group walked away, Alba and Elena stood behind in silence, watching the knights disappear into the crowd. Their gazes met, no words talked, yet understanding elapsed silently between them. Her quick considering had protected his name and spared him from peril. Alba tried to retreat silently, relieved that his name had survived the disorder undiscovered, or so he thought. Before he could vanish, a sharp voice stopped him in his tracks. A blade flashed past his cheek. Elena remained steady, her sword ready, calling him by name without delay. She warned him not to feign ignorance again, or she'd reveal his identity herself. Cornered, Alba surrendered with a sigh, admitting defeat before school had even begun. Life in the capital moved forward while Mina prayed. Others played and argued. Unaware of the secrets unfolding nearby, Alba continued his journey, pursued by faces tied to fate. A new term began at Kriana Academy, where students from across the realm gathered in bright uniforms. The eccentric principal welcomed them with fervent energy, declaring their futures blessed by fate and divine guidance. Among the students, Alba and Celia stepped forward. As Alba looked around, unease crept in. This was where danger would truly begin. 5 potential paths awaited, each tied to a heroine and each linked to Alba's eventual doom. Alba realized he was already entangled in both Celia's and Elena's storylines, increasing his risks. Fortunately, the princess heroine was a staid figure, unlikely to appear during his occasion at the school. Lily, the sage's disciple, and Alice, the protagonist's childhood friend, were in his grade, demanding caution. A sudden shift in the crowd caught Alba's attention. Someone crucial had arrived. Standing confidently was Yuri's, the story's fulfilled hero and Alba's biggest danger. In most scenarios, the enemy never escapes future, always falling before the hero's palm. Staring one another down, Yuri's and Alba sensed the tension of predetermined roles. Fear gripped Alba as he vowed to avoid Yuri's at all costs, determined to survive. With calm resolve, he chose a firm decision to never stand out within the school walls. Assigned to the unicorn dorm, Alba prepared to fade into the background. Alba slouched in his seat, aware of every glance thrown their way. Celia's presence drew a crowd. Whispers packed the room, marveling at the scientess and questioning her unexpected features at the institute. Celia introduced herself happily, but Alba knew her desire for a normal institute days was slipping away. With a radiant smile, she declared herself just another first year in the unicorn class. Despite her request to be treated as an equal, the students couldn't hide their awe. Celia's charm spread like wildfire, effortlessly winning over every student in the room. But murmurs of recognition stirred. Some students sensed something oddly familiar about Alba. Tension thickened as whispers grew. Alba sat surrounded, dreading the rising suspicion. Though disguised, he hated the aristocrat students might uncover his real name. Despite his protests, Celia introduced him warmly, calling for acceptance of her awkward but kind friend. Thanks to Celia's influence, the class welcomed Alba without hesitation, surprising even him. Polite greetings continued, and one recognizable tone held Alba. Elena. Elena confirmed she was also in the unicorn class, her tone calm but sharp admiration. For her beauty and strength packed the room, while Alba silently admitted the fact. Behind his unease, he remembered she knew him, her former fiancé, not just a student called Al. Celia was shocked to learn that Alba and Elena had once been engaged, unable to hide her surprise. Alba couldn't believe fate had brought him face to face with his former fiancée after years apart. He confirmed he had left his old life behind, choosing to escape his past and start anew. Explaining demise, omens, or reincarnation looked pointless. She would never understand the peril he carried. Elena revealed the engagement was broken off without reason, while rumors of his death had spread wildly. Alba joked about their mutual hatred, while Elena revealed her family had been relieved the engagement ended. She listed his past flaws bluntly, admitting she had formerly considered outcome his days herself. But the thought of his death had moved her unexpectedly. She confessed she had cried. Memories of childhood returned, when her father rejected her for being unladylike and too strong. Back then, Alba had comforted her with simple words, accepting her as she was. Elena. A quiet confession slipped out. There was never any hatred back then. Those words stirred uncertainty, hinting at a past untold by the game's original narrative. Saving someone in danger and standing beside the scientist painted a different image than expected. Support happened without delay, a promise to knight the secret from the Academy's scrutiny. Gratitude shone in his smile as trust formed silently between them. A condition was set: help in exchange for managing the suitors flocking since the broken engagement. That agreement resurfaced afterward, confirmed with a simple gesture between two known faces. Surprise swirled in Celia's thoughts, overcome by talk of promises and former relationships. Her curiosity burst forth, demanding clarity from the one person who could explain formality. Melted as both girls agreed to speak freely, recognizing each other as equals. Polite greetings turned into admiration as classmates praised both Celia's cuteness and Elena's charm. An attempt at teasing was met with suspicion, as Celia questioned the shared secret between her friends. Interrupting the moment, a sharp voice challenged Alba's position, mocking his proximity to two admired girls confused and unimpressed. Alba asked who the stranger was, triggering a harsh insult in return. Recognition followed. Elena calmly explained that the arrogant intruder was Walby. Count Walgut's eldest son. Walby's flirtation continued shamelessly, much to everyone's discomfort. Confidence oozed from every word as he made bold marriage claims, treating the academy like a proposal ground. He insisted any noble would be honored to marry Elena, certain his own lineage was more than enough. Talk of alliances and benefits packed the silence, pushing personal feelings away. He rejected the noble's approach outright, not for Elena's sake, but because he despised entitled men like him. Alba confronted Walby, stating he never understood Elena's true value as a person. Celia and the others reacted with surprise and support, impressed by Alba's sincerity. Walby, enraged, threw down a handkerchief and challenged him in front of the class. The gesture signaled a formal duel, leaving Alba completely stunned and cornered. A loud declaration shakes the classroom as a duel is announced between two students. Alba, confused by the sudden commotion, stands at the center as encouragement and tension build around him. The school's rules explain that duels are allowed if they defend one's honor, provided they don't lead to demise. To begin, a special handkerchief must be offered and accepted to formalize the challenge. All duels must endure home inside the school's designated arena under official supervision. Kate Sith, the official witness cat, cheerfully introduces himself to oversee the duel. The crowd gathers as Aru and Warubi face each other in the dueling arena, tension rising. Onlookers react with admiration and concern, impressed that Aru accepted the challenge without hesitation. Shaken, Aru silently panics, oblivious of the Institute's complex dueling rules. Before the fight begins, both duelists are ordered to state the pride or cause they are defending. According to the original game, the duel system was merely a side mechanic, never linked to Alba's fatal endings. Driven by pride, Warubi taunts Alba with a harsh ultimatum involving Elena, escalating the tension. Instead of backing down, Alba agrees to the duel, convinced it won't trigger any doom. He boldly sets his terms, demanding Warubi keep his distance if defeated. With both sides sworn in, the duel officially commences under Kate Sith's watch. Cheers erupt from the crowd as Aru and Warubi square off, standing ready in the center of the arena. Among the spectators, Elena explains that Warubi is renowned for his overwhelming fire magic prowess. With a wicked grin, Warubi begins a fierce incantation, summoning devastating flames with malicious intent. Kate Sith quickly identifies the chant as a powerful fire spell, leaving Aru visibly concerned. Without hesitation, Warubi unleashes his spell, launching the searing hell flame directly at his opponent. A massive explosion erupts across the arena as Warubi's fire spell detonates with overwhelming force. Spectators watch in shock, some screaming Alba's name, fearing he's been consumed by the blast. Warubi boasts about Alba's defeat, laughing arrogantly and questioning if a fatal outcome even matters. Kate Sith remains still, calmly remarking that intervention isn't necessary just yet. From the smoke, Alba reappears unscathed, leaving Warubi stunned by his unexpected survival. Warubi reels in disbelief as Alba appears behind him, having closed the distance in a blink. Observers are stunned as Alba effortlessly dodges attacks and even intercepts a blade mid-swing. One girl calmly analyzes his technique, revealing that Alba became lightning itself rather than casting it. The crowd murmurs in awe, realizing he bypassed standard magic through sheer mastery of transformation. To her, Alba's ability rivals even the legendary sage, a feat nearly unimaginable. Lily, a heroine and the sage's disciple, quietly vows to never lose, her determination unwavering. Charging once more, Warubi prepares the same fiery spell, intent on overwhelming Alba this time. Alba calmly warns him mid-cast, pointing out the flaw and opening left by that chant. As the flames surge forward, Alba remains still, analyzing and waiting for the perfect moment. Without hesitation, he counters instantly, launching Warubi skyward with a powerful lightning-charged blow. Warubi is hurled through the silence, landing tough outside the arena. Shaken by Alba's magic, Kate Sith declares the match over, announcing Alba as the victor, while Alba questions his own force. Cheers erupt from the audience as medic cat Kate Nurse rushes in to treat the fallen duelist. Spectators marvel at Alba's chantless casting, calling it unbelievable and extraordinary. Among the crowd, Yuri's and Alice acknowledge the display, glad they came to witness the duel. Spectators are stunned as they realize Alba's victory wasn't due to brute force but precision. Rather than striking Warubi, Alba had only extended his arm without making physical contact. At such intense speed, the motion alone created a shockwave strong enough to send Warubi flying. Kate Sith confirms the technique's insane difficulty, leaving Alice in disbelief at Alba's power. Despite Alba's feat, Alice hints others might possess equally terrifying potential within the academy. Yuri's observes the entire duel, analyzing every detail with sharp, confident eyes. Alice questions whether Yuri's could defeat Alba, pointing out his ability to track movements. Though dismissive at first, Yuri's admits he'd only fight if someone dear to him were harmed. With a quiet intensity, he declares that he wouldn't lose, should that moment ever come. Meanwhile, Alba receives a warm welcome from his friends, unaware of Yuri's silent resolve. Elena and her friend praise Alba's strength, impressed by the unexpected display of power. Alba reveals that his abilities were honed during isolated mountain training, away from prying eyes, and narrator reflects on the game's mechanics, recalling that Alba could have become the final boss with enough effort, with proper growth. His potential surpasses even the protagonist, elevating him to unmatched levels. Recognizing this truth, Alba reaffirms his strength while someone silently celebrates their belief in him. Alba confidently explains his change, declaring himself reborn after embracing effort and discipline. When Celia questions his past, Elena bluntly recalls Alba's former self as the worst kind of person. Despite that, Celia smiles, declaring Alba now the most wonderful person in her eyes. He huckles at his own excess, while Celia defends his actions in Elena's name. Elena, ever calm, reassures them she can heal anyone Alba roughs up if needed. She thanks Alba sincerely for stepping in and fighting the duel on her behalf. With a confident grin, Alba reminds her of the promise he'd taken to protect her no whatever what. Hearing those words, Elena quietly acknowledges the bond they now share. Kate Sith assures him the duel didn't trigger any death flags, or so Alba thought, unseen by him. Future begins to shift peacefully, stage new events into motion. New contenders begin appearing across the academy one after another, drawing attention from every key figure. Alba slept soundly while the sun rose over the peaceful town. Celia cheerfully called out, announcing breakfast, still unresponsive. Alba was met with an unorthodox wake-up method as Celia jumped on top of him, forcing him awake. At the table, Alba admired the meal, noting how much Celia's cooking had improved through mountain practice. They enjoyed breakfast together, and Alba offered to cook dinner next. Before he left, Celia handed Alba his lunchbox. Holding the lunchbox in his palm, Alba stopped, momentarily distracted by an old knowledge. They left together, walking side by side through the lively streets, discussing their differing views on academy life. At the grand gates of Kriana Academy, they were greeted warmly by classmates as morning classes began. Despite his boredom, Alba admitted days at academy had become strangely quiet. Since that first duel, no ominous signs had emerged during class. Celia stayed focused while Elena impressed the teacher. Al, however, remained distracted and inattentive. Walking the halls, he noticed the other students avoided him. His power during the duel had clearly left a strong impression. Although his isolation kept him safe from trouble, the quiet distance made him feel strangely alone. As classmates gathered for lunch, Celia realized Al was missing again. Away from the crowd, Al napped peacefully, already having finished his lunch early. In the game's logic, sharing lunch with a heroine was a key to deepening bonds, raising favorability through simple acts. Alba, however, remained cautious. Lying under a tree, he decided isolation, hoping to avoid any omens that could seal his fate. His nap was interrupted by a girl asking to join him for lunch, leaving him startled. She smiled gently, expressing thanks for a past favor. To his shock, it was the maiden he'd once rescued, now holding a lunch just for him. With sincere gaze, the maiden gave Alba a handmade bento to express her gratitude. Found off soldier, he froze, noticing he was in the middle of another possible lunch event. As she stood quietly, he stared, unsure who she even was. Fleeing through the girls in his thoughts, he realized she didn't match any of them. That meant one thing: she wasn't a main heroine, but a side character instead. Alba smiled and accepted the bento, thanking Mina with genuine warmth for her thoughtful gesture. He reassured himself there was no harm in enjoying it and gladly opened the box, impressed by its neat presentation. Under a shady tree, he ate with enthusiasm while Mina beamed with joy at his compliments. She agreed to drop formalities, calling him simply Al as they grew more comfortable. Still, he hesitated, concerned that being close to him might isolate her too. Mina smiled brightly, declaring that her decision to stay by Alba's side wasn't influenced by anyone's opinion. As they laughed together, Alba realized she was surprisingly bold and sincere, unlike any character he'd known. Inspired by her spirit, he promised to support her however he could. Their moment was interrupted by a recognizable tone incoming with sarcasm. Celia emerged, angry that Alba had declined her lunch yet accepted another maiden's instead. Alba panicked, quickly clarifying that the situation was a misunderstanding. Both girls exchanged a glance, Celia stern and silent, Mina calm yet unreadable, while Alba stood between them. As Mina walked away, she muttered something under her breath, identifying Celia as the scientist. Alba explained Mina's background and how they first met during a past incident in town. Realizing she might be more involved than expected, Alba acknowledged that the next event was about to begin. The headmaster announced Kriana Academy's first major in-game event, a field trip designed to strengthen bonds between students. Participants would fight sorcery monsters and gather herbs, giving a hands-on tutorial in Niobe Woods. Though the creatures were weak, the event's significance made it a major turning point. Depending on options chosen, relationships could deepen or end, omens could be triggered. With excitement and tension rising, the students marched toward Niobe Forest together. Celia admitted her nerves about facing magic beasts, but Alba reassured her, reminding her they weren't alone. Towering cliffs loomed ahead as the class entered Niobe Forest, the true stage for the upcoming trial. Elena confidently stepped forward, easing everyone's tension with her strong presence. Even the teacher radiated bravado, encouraging the students to stay close and rely on his protection. But Alba knew better soon. The teacher would face a moment where confidence alone wouldn't be enough. One option was to assist Celia in healing injured students, a route packed with compassion and core-pounding seconds. Another route led to Elena's side, where direct combat would forge strength through real battles. Alternatively, joining the energetic heroine meant diving deeper into danger to rescue the childhood friend Alice. The fourth way kept unclear, bound to a maiden who reached everything boring. Among these four choices, Alba had to decide his next move carefully. Alba considered his options carefully, knowing the hero's features meant critical decisions rested ahead. The other students split into groups. Elena took charge of the fighters, while Celia led those gathering herbs. Meanwhile, the remaining heroines continued their own roles, blending into the woods' cycle as the event progressed. Their teacher urged caution as they approached the magical beast habitat. Suddenly, a chill ran down his spine. Something about the area felt disturbingly off. A rustling in the underbrush triggered alarm. Something far beyond normal was emerging. Abruptly, a terrifying horde of massive creatures burst from the woods, charging forth with fury. The teacher yelled in alarm, noticing it wasn't an ordinary encounter. It was a stampede. Turmoil flared among the students as they scrambled for peace, while a strange presence was sensed nearby. Standing firm, Alba clenched his fists. The real event had begun. A massive stampede of magical monsters rushed toward the school. With the battle event underway, orders were issued to evacuate. Tension spread as the woods shook under the creatures' advance. Leading the charge were fierce monsters, each one more menacing than the last, roaring and charging without restraint. Amidst uncertainty, the hero remained his ground. His role in this combat would shape his relationship with the girls yet. He knew the danger getting closer to them only brought him closer to his doom. Met with a difficult decision, he thought on the route that stood ahead as the girls' voices echoed in his thoughts. His strategy proved clear: follow the original enemy's example and disengage from the unfolding disorder without delay, rather than battle. He turned his back on the battlefield, sprinting toward peace, while others called out in surprise. Students escaped through the woods, unaware of the risk creeping closer. A monstrous beast suddenly ambushed them, cutting off their escape. As the beast lunged, Celia cried out for Alba, unable to find him among the chaos. Abruptly, a blinding surge of ability flared. He reappeared, releasing a devastating attack to protect them all. Relief spread across Celia's face as she saw him standing tall, no longer running away. He urged her to departure, but the wounded needed help, and Celia moved forth without uncertainty. Though afraid, she decided to stand, channeling her healing mana to save a dead ally. Celia seemed up at Alba, her words steady as she pleaded for him to protect everyone in her space. Her faith in him was unwavering, sparking something deeper within his resolve. Forget logic, he clenched his fist, pushing away thoughts of end omens and destiny. Smiling at his own hesitation, He vowed to act not out of fear but for those who believed in him. Elsewhere, another heroine held her ground, fiercely battling a monstrous foe. Elena attacked forth with precision, clashing fiercely against the insectoid creature without uncertainty. While shielding her allies, she unleashed a powerful blast, forcing the others to retreat from danger. Alba soon reached her side, concerned but impressed by her strength and determination. With a friendly grin, he acknowledged her capabilities, giving trust rather than orders. After entrusting the area to Elena, he turned away, preparing to dive deeper into the forest peril. The key to outcome the event stood in the woods' depths: defeat the boss, and everything would cease. Alba carved his way forward, obliterating monsters as he pushed deeper toward the objective. Yet unease crept in. Something about the beast didn't align with his memories. The event should have only featured weak enemies and a comical boss named Pipshuranam instead. The forest teemed with mid-game monsters far beyond the intended difficulty. Alba began to question if his changed behavior was affecting the flow of the scenario itself. Instead of the original weak boss, he now waited before a massive three-headed chimera and foe from far later in the story. With a sharp glare, he confirmed the situation. This boss had no place in a tutorial. From behind the beast, a girl recognized him and called out in desperation. Her name was Alice, and though she introduced herself cheerfully, she was clearly in danger. Alice, showed to be one of the girls and Yuri's childhood friend, had been caught by the chimera while misplaced. Unable to ignore her plight, Alba rushed in, determined not to abandon anyone. He hit with filled strength, causing a devastating attack aimed directly at the beast's crown. The chimera staggered but stood firm, barely budging under the blow. To Alba's shock, his strike had failed. It didn't even leave a scratch. Alice yelled a critical notice. Chimera's weakness wasn't fixed, it shifted over moment. All visual breakdown confirmed that the creature alternated between being weak to physical or magic attacks depending on its phase. Realization struck Alba. His current attacks were ineffective because the chimera resisted magic now. In the game, success required teamwork. Celia's spells and Elena's sword played key roles. Without delay, Alba launched in again, adjusting his strategy mid-air. Alba formed a quick plan. He'd close the gap with magic and land a physical blow. With momentum behind him, he launched a fierce punch straight into the chimera's face. The impact landed, but the beast barely flinched. The attack failed to do real damage. In retaliation, the chimera released a devastating attack, forcing Alba to defend under burden. Frustrated and unarmed, he realized brute strength alone wouldn't be enough to win. As Alice cried out, the snake head of the chimera coiled around her, dragging her into its crushing grip. Before it could finish, a sudden slash tore through the coils, severing the threat in an instant. Alba froze as the chimera recoiled, clearly struck by a new presence on the battlefield. Emerging from the dust, Yuri stood tall, cradling Alice protectively in his arms. Their reunion was quiet but heartfelt. She had trusted he would come, and he hadn't failed her. Yuri's met the chimera head-on, instructing Alice to remain back as the beast roared in challenge. Without hesitation, he charged, driving his blade toward the monster's core. His quiet demeanor broke under his remarks, lay fury for those who harmed someone dear. Just as his sword struck, the creature retaliated, deflecting the blow. Alba watched, impressed yet alert. Alice warned him the chimera had already shifted phases, altering its weakness once again. Yuri's realized physical strikes were useless. Now the chimera had entered its magic vulnerable phase. Alba seized the moment, unleashing a massive burst of lightning magic directly into the beast. The twin heads roared in pain, reeling from the force of the impact. Yuri's kept the burden on, holding the chimera's attention and buying moment for another attack. Despite their rivalry, he acknowledged Alba's strength. Teaming up was their best shot at survival. They finally remained side by side, stage away tension to finish the combat hastily. Alba and Yuri's confront a massive chimera beast blocking the mountain path, its growls shaking the ground. Without hesitation, Alba takes command, and Yuri's prepares to fight by his side. Trusting his judgment, they both charge forth at filled speed, mana and steel flaring as they close in on the beast. Yuri's attacks with a magical blast, striking the chimera's face, forcing it to roar in pain. In a synchronized strike, Alba slashes while Yuri's leaps from above, delivering a powerful final blow. Charging together, Alba and Yuri's coordinate a follow-up attack while a girl watches from the battlefield. Smiling calmly, she comments on the beast's misfortune for facing such a formidable team. Even when the creature deflects Alba's spell, Yuri's blade breaks through with relentless strength. Conversely, when it counters Yuri's sword, Alba's magic pierces through from another angle together. Their unbreakable synergy overwhelms all opposition, earning the girl's admiration. With his sword raised great, Yuri's waited victorious amid the fading storm of their fight. Alba, calm and confident, displayed the magical prowess that transformed him into living lightning. Electric energy burst outward as Alba landed a crushing blow against the massive beast. Meanwhile, Yuri's sharp instincts and unmatched swordsmanship proved he was no less formidable. Their combined strength earned gratitude from allies who celebrated the safe rescue of Aris. Curious, the boy asked how Alba knew his name, prompting light-hearted explanations from the others. They reminisce about growing up in the same village where Yuri's earned the title of strongest. Relieved, the boy expresses how glad he is that everything ended safely. He then explains that Aris is like a younger sister to him, nothing more. Disappointed, the maiden silently reacts, hiding her feelings behind a faint grin and teasing remark. The group prepared to part ways, each returning to their assigned squads after the battle. Despite their offer to walk together, Alba firmly refused, blaming their presence for his misfortunes. With a sincere smile, the boy expressed his gratitude, promising to never forget Alba's help. Their silhouettes faded into the distance, bound by a fate that cast them as future enemies. Left behind, Alba muttered wistfully, wishing Yuri's had been a little easier to hate. Left alone near the dead beast, Alba remained in quiet, scratching his crown in thought. His senses flared something or someone was nearby, hidden just out of sight, pointing toward the tree. He spoke plainly, certain the presence had observed the fight. Though the person stayed unseen, he considered the possibility of concealment sorcery. Activating his lightning form, Alba showed he could still feeling their presence through the silence. With narrowed gaze, Alba demanded the stayed person to reveal themselves without delay. A shimmer of sorcery broke apart, and to his shock, a maiden emerged from thin air. She introduced herself as Lily, calmly declaring she was one of the main heroines. Alba reacted with frustration, realizing his name was widely known due to a past duel. Lily explained she had only been observing, arriving during the heat of their earlier battle, showed she'd only heard rumors from her teacher Alba's strength was a rare type of advanced mana. He misunderstood her gesture, thought she referred to the killed chimera, which stood still nearby. Suddenly, the chimera's body began dissolving into glowing fragments, leaving no trace behind. Shocked, both observed in disbelief as the beast left completely into the silence. Calmly, Lily explained it had been a magical construct from another dimension, its form unsustainable without mana. Alba stared in confusion as Lily's explanation flew over his head. The basics of fire making were illustrated tools creating heat by friction, but the rules of their world didn't allow such effects to occur naturally via magic. Lily elaborated that magic required harmony with nature. With a diagram, she explained that sorcery didn't create actual fire, it replicated it from another realm through meddling. Realization hit Alba, both his lightning powers and the chimera they'd met were projections unsheathed from a separate dimension's reality. Unknown sorcerer had used magic to replicate a chimera from another world. Because it was only a magical construct, it vanished once the sustaining mana was exhausted. Realizing this, Alba suspected someone powerful was behind the summoning, someone targeting them intentionally. Elsewhere, two mysterious figures discussed the event, impressed that a student had defeated the chimera. They acknowledged the strength of the school, calling it one of the three great powers beside the regal relatives and the church. The two hooded women remained atop a cliff, one admitting her mana couldn't function without mana down below. Alba declared they would retreat for now, certain the enemy would return another day. Dominant sorceress laughed off the failure, blaming her unsuitability for teamwork and leaving the rest to her companion. Reflecting on the scene, Alba realized the story was no longer following the story's expected route. He questioned whether the beast-summoning magician was linked to the doom omens bound to his future. Looking to the distant cliffs, Alba firmly declared he would show no mercy to those who stood against him. With the chimera gone, he assumed the forest was safe and suggested returning, but Lily interrupted with a question. Alba admitted he was self-taught, never having learned magic from anyone else. Surprised by his answer, Lily found it amusing and intriguing. With a gentle grin, she admitted that he had sparked her interest. As Lily walked away, Alba suddenly remembered why this event was key to deepening their bond. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the Institute, Shiria worked alongside Alba during rescue missions. Mastering the beast had left, Irena fought bravely with her team, confirming that the creature was only a magical replica. Eris and Yuri's realized it had all been someone's spell and protected others from the threat. Now Alba's goal was clear: he needed to display his power to Lily and gain her interest. Alba panicked as he realized he had triggered doom flags with every main heroine he met. Still, the students celebrated together, oblivious of the looming peril that stayed unresolved. Watching them reunite joyfully, Alba felt relieved that no one had been seriously hurt. Far away, the academy's headmaster received a report on the incident and began piecing together the enemy's possible intent. In the shadows, the mysterious sorceress and her followers prepared their next move against the academy. The mysterious lady observed with a confident grin, her idea silently unfolding from the shadows. Meanwhile, Alba waited steady with his allies, prepared to protect the school and confront whatever risk came next. Strange activity was reported close in the woods, where a magical beast disturbance broke the region's quiet. The dense trees hid something unusual. A knight commander arrived with his unit, issuing orders to search the entire forest thoroughly. The mission was treated with urgency. Among the knights, one man focused intently. He speculated that their target might be a first-year student, raising concern. Elsewhere, students gathered after field training. Their instructor confirmed they'd lodged there for the night. They approached a magical inn, oblivious that peril loomed beyond the quiet surroundings. After arriving, the students casually discussed the academy's bold choice to turn serious incidents into part of their curriculum. Curiosity stirred among them. Some believed the beast attack was part of a simulated lesson, though a few admitted it had felt genuinely frightening. One of the older students reasoned that the school probably decided to keep the fact live to prevent unnecessary fear. Elsewhere, a few upperclassmen quietly speculated that someone among the students might have experienced something unusual, just as they once had. Though surprise remained, the maiden promised to explain everything, easing the tension before they entered the inn. Inside the inn, one boy rolled around on the tatami floor, embracing the traditional feel while his friends watched and laughed at his antics. Delighted by the blend of Japanese and Western elements, he praised the world's flexibility and attention to detail. As hunger set in, another student reminded the group that dinner would follow their time in the bath. Abruptly, a story-like interface emerged, prompting a decision to peek or not to peek at the girls' bath. Although tempting, such an act would drastically reduce affection levels, ending any romantic possibilities with the heroines. Alba hesitated as he weighed a hidden game option. Choosing it could cost him trust, but perhaps it could also break free from his destruction flag. While he deliberated, the girls enjoyed their moment in the hot spring, oblivious they were being observed in someone's head or possibly reality. Their peaceful conversation turned to Alba's past engagement with Irena. Questions about his current feelings lingered in the steamy air. Meanwhile, Alba stood confidently among the boys in the men's bath, pretending nothing was amiss. Closed down, he insisted his motives were lured all to escape a doomed fate. In the middle of the bathhouse, Alba was startled when another boy caught him standing blankly, drawing unexpected attention. Trained to play it off, Alba muttered excuses, but his friend teased him with a knowing smirk and praised his timing. That evening, under the crescent moon, small remarks of gratitude were shared about Alba's help during a past crisis. As they soaked together, one girl questioned another about her feelings toward Alba, hinting at a growing interest. Both girls quietly admitted admiration for him, praising his strength and kindness, though neither fully understood their own emotions. A lively maiden walked out of the bath, happily announcing that Alba had rescued her too. The others turned to her in surprise. She introduced herself as Persia, from the Holy Wolf group, while the others shared their names and relaxed in the spring's warmth. Under the moonlit sky, Persia recalled how Alba had saved her from a chimera. The others quietly agreed on his strength and bravery. However, concern returned as they discussed how someone had used artificial beasts to target students. Fear lingered in their thoughts. Abruptly, Persia charged at one maiden playfully, causing smile and startled screams to echo through the bathhouse. While the girls continued teasing and bonding, one of them made a bold comment, leading to a comically intense reaction from the others. Abruptly, Alba was flung into the air, an electric jolt escaping through him as loud crashing noises flared nearby, alarming everyone. To their shock, he crash-landed into the girls' bath area. All three screamed in unison, scandalized by his sudden and awkward arrival. A furious staff member launched a barrel straight at Alba, labeling him a shameless intruder as he wailed in protest. Back in the men's bath, Alba's friend sighed, acknowledging Alba's intentions but reminded him that peeking still had consequences. After Alba's electric mishap, he floated dazed in the hot spring, while the other boys lay shocked from the aftershock. Staring at the sky, Alba wondered if the chaotic series of events could at least count as a successful event. Later, Persia bowed her head in apology. Her antics had triggered the chain reaction, and she admitted it with a sheepish laugh. The group gathered in yukata, exchanging apologies and laughter over the commotion. Alba still looked slightly annoyed. As teasing resumed, the mood lightened. Though Alba's embarrassment lingered, affection scores may have dropped. But so did everyone's guard. Yuri's and Persia explained that their village revered the goddess of fate, and from childhood they were taught to respect the saint. That respect, however, didn't stop Alice from grabbing the saint's chest earlier, prompting embarrassed reactions from the group, formally introduced alone as Alice's childhood friend, while the girls reappeared the gesture, turning their names and smiling politely. Encouraged by their friendliness, Yuri's asked everyone to treat him casually as a peer, not with honorifics or formality. While the group laughed together, Alba stood silently to the side, watching the bonds forming around him grow deeper. As dinner time approached, Alba announced he'd head out first. The others cheerfully followed soon after. Though he kept a straight face, Alba admitted to himself just a little that he felt jealous of Yuri's. A spread of delicious dishes awaited the group, filling the air with warmth and anticipation. Everyone began eating together. Alba devoured his food with enthusiasm, while the girls enjoyed the meal with delighted expressions. Midway through, Alba asked if anyone had seen Mina, a first-year student. Their silence suggested something was amiss. Alba and the others noticed Irena's tense expression. When checked, she silently showed that Mina's parents, heads of the Rupika family, were in peril. Without hesitation, she added the devastating news: Mina's parents had been murdered. The atmosphere grew heavy with silence. Far from the others, Mina collapsed beside her bed, overwhelmed by grief. Her childhood treasures surrounded her, untouched. A family photo rested on her table, staring at it through crying. She couldn't comprehend why such tragedy hit her house. Clutching the edge of the desk, Mina cried out, her voice trembling, begging for someone, anyone, to help. Under the evening sky, Mina's desperate appeal echoed, asking someone to rescue her. Back at the inn, Irena informed the group that the culprit behind Mina's parents' murder was still at large. Alba remained silent, his face heavy with concern. He reflected on Mina's role as a minor side role. Her circumstances shouldn't impact his destiny, but uncertainty stayed. Sitting together, the group solemnly hoped they could offer her support in some way. One girl softly spoke, reminding them that grief was too painful to bear alone and no one should have to endure it in silence. The group thought on Sharia's steady expression, shaped by seasons of watching loss. Her words carried quiet strength. Alba made a decision. Regardless of his future or omens, he would help Mina as a friend. Not for the story. With unwavering resolve, Alba sat upright. He promised himself he would become someone Mina could rely on. Alba started his morning with a loud yawn, clearly unconcerned about his surroundings. Despite being in class, Alba drifted into his own realm, earning a steady magical alert from the teacher. The spell hit him cleanly, snapping him back to reality. A month passed since the last field training. It was now June, and their institute existence kept quiet. The academy continued a year-long seasonal rules, shifting from spring to winter in a structured cycle. Over 3 years, students aged 16 to 18 honed their skills, freely choosing events to level up through study and training. Many paths awaited students of the academy: adventurers, scholars, merchants, or heroes uncovering ancient secrets. New heroines arrived, cheerful and charismatic. Alba watched them from a distance, knowing their roles were key to the story's progression. Despite their presence, Alba had no intention of pursuing any of the game's common endings. He remained firmly detached. He understood his fate. No, what path continued, he would eventually become the enemy in the hero's journey. Alba remembered how the story forever ended with the enemy falling after threatening the heroine. He stood silently, rejecting that destiny. Yuri suddenly called out to Alba, surprising him as he stood idly in the hallway. With the heroines watching, Yuri casually approached, asking why Alba was loitering around instead of engaging in activities like the others. The girls praised Yuri's, highlighting his top performance in the combat test. Alba observed in silence, expression unreadable, playfully joked about their weaknesses while admiring Yuri's. Alba remained distant, separate from their cheerful circle. Alba smiled faintly, then turned away. He excused himself with a careless remark, hiding his unease as he walked off alone. As Alba walked away, the group speculated if they had upset him. With too much praise for Yuri's, hearing whispers of jealousy, Alba paused. The thought left him puzzled. Had he really been envious? Ileana dismissed the idea with a sharp remark, calling jealousy childish. Though her tone suggested something deeper, curious, Sharia turned to her friend and quietly asked if Alba's feelings might be more complicated than they assumed. Far from their conversation, Alba reminded personally of his goal to live a days that would never become the enemy's way, To escape entanglement with central characters, Alba reappeared to his old routine, napping under trees and keeping to alone. Unexpectedly, Mina appeared. She greeted him softly, and Alba replied with a rare, gentle smile. Though a minor person in this land, Mina extended recognition. She invited him to eat lunch together without hesitation. They shared a meal under the sun, laughing easily. Her presence felt distant from destruction or fate. With Mina, Alba could speak freely, unburdened by roles or expectations. That simplicity brought him a feeling of quiet he rarely reached elsewhere. Sitting under the trees, Alba softly acknowledged what he had heard about Mina's relatives, offering calm support in return. Her eyes softened with gratitude as she thanked him. That simple exchange brought a warmth they both understood. Mina admitted she always felt more cheerful after speaking with him, her smile radiant and sincere. Suddenly, Sharia appeared, recognizing both of them. She approached with an enthusiastic greeting without hesitation. She invited Mina to join them after class. Alba observed curiously as Mina stared in shock at the unexpected offer. With a shining grin, Sharia abruptly suggested they all throw a party together. Her energy filled the air. Both Alba and Mina blinked in confusion, unsure what the occasion could be. A burst of confetti revealed the surprise. Everyone had gathered to celebrate Alba's birthday, shouting their cheerful congratulations. Caught off guard, Alba gave an awkward laugh. The event was overwhelming, but strangely heartwarming. As he looked back, Alba recalled entering his birth date during the game's setup. That simple input had triggered this event in the world's script. One by one, the girls offered heartfelt birthday wishes. For Alba, this was unfamiliar territory, warmth from people who genuinely cared. They showed that the 6th of June marked his birthday, a fact even he had overlooked since reincarnating into this realm. Jokes flew around, teasing him for sulking earlier when no one had celebrated. He protested, flustered but clearly touched. Despite the short notice, everyone had worked together to make the party happen. Even Elena, while acting cold, had known all along. Introductions continued as Mina politely thanked them for the invitation. The others welcomed her warmly, blending two circles into one. Elena gave gentle words to Mina, reassuring her that the Luciar family would forever lend support. Mina nodded, touched by the warmth. Sharia then stepped forward, formally reintroducing herself. The two girls exchanged polite greetings, closing the distance between their social circles. From the sidelines, Alba observed the friendly exchange, silently noticing how easily his realm had become packed with these main characters despite his efforts. Suddenly, Sharia called out to him with a cheerful voice, saying everything was ready. Alba turned, surprised. At the center stood a cake glowing with candles. Surrounding it were his friends, smiling, as they celebrated his 16th birthday with genuine joy. As the candles appeared, Alba taken a hope, for formerly, he let alone hope that simple life like this could continue. Laughter erupted as Sharia playfully smashed the cake into his face, leaving everyone including Alba laughing. Through the laughter, Alba smiled gently. In that moment, he wished only to keep living peacefully without conflict or fate hanging overhead. As the gathering ended, the group said their goodbyes. Yuri's, Elena, and Sharia returned to the academy dorms. Mina prepared to leave as well, but Alba insisted on walking her home after all. He said it was the least he could do. Quietly insisted that Alba was kind to everyone, denying she had any special reason to be jealous. Yet her flustered tone said otherwise. As they stood outside, Alba suddenly turned to Sharia and told her they were leaving. Mina was left momentarily confused. He explained with a grin that he couldn't let her walk home alone. He was her self-declared bodyguard now. During their walk, they learned Mina lived under the knight's protection, and Sharia warmly invited her to visit their home anytime. Mina was overwhelmed by their kindness. She tried to speak, her core pounding, but her remarks found in her throat as emotions stirred within. When they reached her gate, Mina said goodbye with a faint, hesitant smile. Whatever she'd hoped to answer stayed unspoken. As she waved from the entrance, Sharia commented that it looked like Mina had tried to say something. He reassured her, saying Mina would talk when she was ready because they were friends. Sharia softly echoed the sentiment. Darkness settled over the streets. To light their way, Alba cast a simple illumination spell, lighting up the path with a bright glow. Suddenly, a presence stirred nearby. Both froze as Alba raised his words, demanding. The quiet darkness had taken a sharp turn. Alba's expression turned sharp. His senses were on full alert. Sharia called his name, startled by the sudden shift in his demeanor. He scanned the area, certain they were being watched, but whoever it was had vanished. Sharia looked around, seeing no one. From a rooftop, a shadowed figure clicked their tongue in frustration. irritated that Alba had sensed their presence so quickly. The mysterious observer noted Alba's unusual awareness, remarking that even a mere student could detect the effects of their cloaking spell. With a cruel grin, the hooded person muttered that soon, the magical energy needed to transform the maiden would be complete. From a remote rooftop, the hooded person whispered that the moment for god-slaying was nearly upon them. Oblivious of the danger, Alba and his friends continued their lives at the school, their life still packed with calm for now. Kriana Academy prepares for one of its most important events of the year, the sports festival. Celia Margaret, representative of the Unicorn Group, raises her fist and leads the students in an oath to fight fair and with heart. Cheers erupt across the grounds as the festival officially begins. The Academy's staff look on with anticipation, hoping to see how the students in the Holy Bird, Fenrir, and Unicorn groups have grown. A screen explains the rules. Students compete with the group they chose at the start of the term, and a victory raises the affection of the heroine tied to that group. Elena and Celia steady themselves, ready to give their all. Elsewhere, Alba, a member of the Unicorn group, quietly declares that he has no intention of winning. Standing out could put him closer to a death flag, and that is the one thing he refuses to risk. Celia and Elena hype each other up, vowing to bring total victory to House Persia and make the most of their first sports festival together. Alba watches them from a distance, sweating slightly at how seriously they are taking it. The two girls scold Alba for holding back, telling him to show some spirit like everyone else. He responds half-heartedly, clearly more interested in staying invisible than competing. The Fenrir group rallies behind Yuri's and Alice, declaring that victory belongs to them and they refuse to lose to anyone. Their energy contrasts sharply with Alba's reluctance just moments earlier. Yuri approaches Alba, playfully warning him not to expect any mercy. The other students joke about how, technically, the protagonist winning the festival would be the canon route. Mina, representative of the Holy Bird group, steps forward with a calm smile, ready to compete. Mina proposes a fair fight, and both sides agree, acknowledging that everyone is a rival today. Her allies warn each other not to underestimate the Holy Bird group's strong magical power. Mina simply says she wants to make good memories, though her quiet smile carries something unreadable underneath. Lily, another member of the Holy Bird group, introduces herself and remarks that Mina is hiding a surprising amount of magic power. She wonders aloud what kind of magic Mina actually uses. Nearby, Kate Sith, the festival's cat mascot, announces that commentary and play-by-play duties belong to him. Yuri mentions offhandedly that there is even a future storyline where Alba ends up paired with Lily, calling her a mysterious girl. The first event for first years is announced, a foot race with magic strictly banned, testing pure stamina instead. Students cheer on their chosen representatives as Mina, Celia, and Alice prepare to run. The race begins. Alice reveals she grew up chasing Yuri's around the mountains, giving her surprising speed as she takes an early lead. Alba, uninterested in competing, decides to skip the event entirely, insisting that avoiding death flags matters more than winning. Elsewhere, Celia and Kate Sith realize he has vanished and panic, wondering where he went. The next event is announced, a giant rock rolled forward using a class's combined magic power. While the rock battle unfolds, Alba is found casually eating lunch nearby, having skipped out entirely. Celia demands to know where the idiot is hiding, and Lily calmly notes that Al is being just as unpredictable as always. The festival moves into a Shambara battle, a mock sword fight using padded weapons that only numb on impact. Students charge forward together, encouraged to survive with all their might, though one nervously admits she isn't very good with weapons. The chaos of the battle turns into a full-scale free-for, all with students clashing from every direction. One onlooker remarks that two competitors in particular are clearly on a different level from everyone else. Those two are revealed to be Yuri's and Elena, locked in an intense one-on-one clash that draws everyone's attention. The fight is fierce and evenly matched. Elena's technique is refined, but Yuri's compensates with raw talent, and both openly admire each other's strength. Someone remarks that Yuri's is really playing the part of the protagonist today. A voice questions the word original, realizing that fighting evenly with Elena is actually one of the storylines required to raise her affection in the game. The full picture becomes clear. In the original story, the protagonist raises the heroine's affection. The villain Alba steals her away and the protagonist fights to save her, leading to Alba's downfall. Someone insists that this version of Alba is different from the one in the game, but the thought lingers uncomfortably. The scoreboard updates. Fenrir leads with 250 points. Holy Bird follows with 230, and Unicorn trails behind at 200. Celia and Elena rally each other, acknowledging that Unicorn is in last place but insisting a comeback is still possible, especially with the final event worth double points. Alba lies sprawled out, still napping despite the commotion. Oblivious to the chaos he has caused up in the stands, the crowd chants his name, demanding to know why the delinquent still hasn't shown up. Celia fumes, furious that he continues to skip events like nothing happened. The final event for first years is announced. The mixed pair obstacle race boys and girls will switch partners halfway through, combining stamina, magic, and raw power to clear the course. Kate Sith reveals the chosen representatives for each group. For Unicorn, the pair is Al and Celia. Everyone scrambles to find him while Celia stands stunned that she has been paired with the one person who keeps disappearing. The other pairs are revealed as well. Fenrir sends Yuri's and Alice, who confidently agree to take on the challenge together. Holy Bird sends Mash and Lily, with Mash grumbling about the effort, while Lily simply says she will do her best. Kate Sith scolds Alba directly, reminding him he can't keep skipping forever. Startled, Alba is dragged back just as the crowd erupts, demanding to know where he has been hiding all this time. The rules are laid out clearly. The girls will carry the baton first, pushing through obstacles before handing it off to the boys, who will then fight through the remaining course to reach the goal. The track is shown in full, a looping path with one obstacle waiting on the women's side and another on the men's, starting and ending at opposite ends of the field. Kate Sith gives the signal to begin. The race explodes into motion as Lily, Celia, and Alice launch forward. Their teammates cheer them on from the sidelines, each wishing they could do more to help. Ahead of them, obstacles begin to activate, rising from magic circles embedded in the ground. Countless grasping hands made of dark energy surge up from the obstacle, threatening to swallow the runners whole. Lily reacts instantly, casting a spell to summon her own set of magical hands to bind the opposing force before it can trap them. Lily's magic tears a clean path straight through the wall of grasping hands, clearing the way for herself and the others to keep moving without breaking stride. Watching from the sidelines, Yuri's and Al note just how exceptional Lily's control is. Al remarks that most people are naturally skilled with one elemental affinity while weak in its opposite. Yuri's counters that Lily is far beyond simply good. She has no such limitation at all. Lily is revealed to have mastered all four basic elements at once, without any visible struggle, a feat that stuns everyone watching. Someone notes that as the disciple of the sage, this kind of mastery makes complete sense for a heroine of her caliber. Alice takes her turn, transforming herself into a small cat using magic to slip past the grasping hands unnoticed, before darting away safely to the other side. Watching her escape, Al recalls that she is a heroine known for her tricky, unconventional magic and jokes that if she had used this trick during their encounter with the Chimera, she might have avoided capture entirely. Celia calls upon holy light, letting it burst outward and erase the obstacle in front of her completely. Al watches with quiet approval, noting the clear touch of a scientist's blessing in her magic. With the girls' portion cleared, the boys prepare to take over as the baton pass begins. A massive iron golem rises from the ground, towering over the runners as their next obstacle. The boys watching from behind acknowledge just how enormous a wall it presents. Alice makes the baton touch with Yuri's, urging him forward. He wastes no time, closing the distance and delivering a direct kick that sends the golem's massive fist flying backward as if it were nothing. Yuri's tears across the track at incredible speed, easily overtaking the obstacle. He silently activates a hidden ability, boosting his physical performance far beyond normal limits. As he pushes ahead of the pack, Lily explains the mechanics behind his sudden burst of strength, describing how he draws energy from an alternate dimension and channels it directly into his body to enhance his physical output. She notes that despite how dangerous and unstable such magic can be if mishandled, he activates it with unsettling ease, calling him a true master of the technique. Eurus uses the same enhanced strength to shatter straight through the iron golem's defenses, proving that his earlier attack was no fluke. The golem staggers, unable to withstand the force behind his leap. Elsewhere on the field, Celia finally catches up to Al, apologizing breathlessly for making him wait. He stands quietly, only mildly annoyed by the delay. Elena storms toward Al, furious and threatening to expose the truth of who he really is in front of everyone if he doesn't take the race seriously. Panicked, Al realizes she means his identity as Alba the villain, and scrambles into gear, sprinting off the starting line like a bolt of lightning the moment the race resumes. The iron golem unleashes a massive burst of energy straight ahead, but Al powers through it without slowing down, driving forward with everything he has as the shockwave tears apart the space around him. The whole field watches in stunned silence as Al blazes across the final stretch, leaving the obstacle behind him in ruins. Celia, Elena, Lily, and Alice all react with wide eyes, none of them expecting him to close the gap so fast. Al crosses the finish line first, sealing Unicorn's victory. Yuri's watches him with quiet respect, admitting under his breath that Al has proven himself a worthy rival. Al, catching his breath, mutters that he should have picked up the pace much sooner. Sitting on the ground afterward, Al grumbles in frustration, unable to believe he actually won. Despite trying so hard to stay out of the spotlight, Celia and Elena embrace each other, laughing with pure joy as the announcement comes in. Kate Sith declares the results. The group that conquered the first-year division is the Unicorn group. Reflecting on the day, Lily admits that getting to see so much interesting magic made the festival enjoyable. Maybe. Alice and Mina agree, glad they didn't lose and already looking ahead to next year. Celia thinks quietly to herself that they made some wonderful memories together. None of them realize yet that the sports festival was only a flag setting up the next major event to come. In a shadowed hall far from the academy, a masked figure addresses someone called Yoru-sama, informing them that the festival has ended. Yoru corrects them coldly, insisting the real festival is only just beginning. The figure agrees, revealing that everything is being set in motion for the sake of their organization's long, cherished ambition, one they call Ragnarok. Surrounded by two grinning, mask-like figures looming in the shadows, a woman steps forward with a sharp smile, introducing the name of what is coming next, the God Killing. The chapter ends there, marked to be continued. The sports festival had finally come to a close, and the mood among the students settled into quiet exhaustion. Al stretched his arms and admitted he was worn out, only for Elena to remind him that he had skipped half the events himself. She teased that no matter how much he seemed to change, moments like this proved the delinquent in him never really left. Al laughed it off, insisting that all that mattered was their side had won. As the two walked together, Elena wondered aloud where Celia had gone. Al explained that Mina had asked to speak with her privately and that Celia was still inside the girls' locker room. Elena found the whole situation curious, unable to guess what kind of conversation would keep Celia so long. Inside the locker room, Celia approached Mina directly, asking what exactly she wanted to discuss. The empty rows of lockers around them made the space feel unusually still, as if the moment carried more weight than an ordinary chat between friends. Mina struggled to find her words at first, her hesitation obvious. Celia guessed lightly that it might be love advice, trying to ease the tension. But Mina's expression stayed serious as she finally spoke Celia's name with unusual formality, catching her off guard. Mina asked a question that felt far heavier than expected, whether Celia could sacrifice one precious thing in order to save something else she cared about. Celia's face tightened, the playful atmosphere gone, replaced by something closer to unease. Neither girl spoke for a moment. The silence stretched between the lockers as Mina continued, reflecting on how people often wonder what choice is right, yet find themselves forced to give something up whenever they try to protect what matters most. Mina went on, describing humans as beings with only 2 hands and 2 legs, limited vessels unable to hold everything at once. No matter how much someone wished to keep, their capacity would always fall short. She continued, saying only a being like God could grasp everything without loss. Mortals, by contrast, were forever bound to choose, to select one thing while discarding another, a truth she seemed to carry with quiet sorrow. Her words grew more pointed. What would someone choose? Where would they go? What would they hold on to when the moment came? Even knowing sacrifice was inevitable, people still agonized over the decision, suffering long before the choice was made. Despite the heaviness of her words, Mina insisted that such choices were precisely what made people human. They were precious, something worth taking pride in, or so she wanted to believe, even as doubt lingered beneath her voice. Celia studied her for a moment before answering plainly that she would respect whatever decision Mina made if she were struggling with something painful. Mina's expression softened into a small, grateful smile as she told Celia to choose whatever path she wished. No matter what it was, tears welled in Mina's eyes as she thanked Celia quietly. Her voice trembled with an emotion that went beyond simple gratitude, as though Celia's answer confirmed something she had hoped and feared to hear between tears. Mina called Celia a true saintess before apologizing, the words slipping out with sudden urgency. Celia could only blink in confusion, unsure what exactly she was being thanked and apologized for. Without warning, a dark presence loomed behind Celia, the air around them shifting violently before she could react. A massive figure closed in, its grinning face filling the shadows as it declared its ambush a success. Mina whispered another apology as the intruder seized her, dragging her back while Celia turned in shock, demanding to know who the attacker was. The peaceful conversation only moments earlier had collapsed into chaos. Through tears, Mina revealed the truth behind her earlier words. Her father and mother had both been killed, and the fear of losing anyone else had shaped everything she just said. Her apology was not for the conversation itself, but for what she now had no choice but to do. The masked man declared that he was taking the scientists with him to an organization known only as Ragnarok. As he seized Celia, Mina's voice cracked as she screamed her name, unable to stop what was unfolding before her. Elsewhere, unaware of the unfolding crisis, Al crossed paths with Yuri's and Alice, who greeted him with casual familiarity. Yuri's asked if he was still lingering around, prompting a light exchange between old acquaintances enjoying the calm after the festival. The calm shattered when Al suddenly felt a massive surge of magic ripple through the air. Alarmed, he asked what it could be. Alice explained they were waiting for Celia, who was taking longer than expected, which was why Elena had gone ahead to find her. Concern quickly replaced their earlier lightheartedness as the atmosphere shifted. Moments later, a monstrous creature tore through the city, its massive form crashing into the streets with devastating force. The peaceful day had turned in an instant, leaving everyone to face a threat far greater than anything the sports festival had prepared them for. Yuri's recalled with a grin that the creature before them had killed him more times than he could count, recognizing it instantly as the legendary magic beast from the game's endgame. Alice and the others turned toward it in disbelief, stunned that something so massive had appeared, momentarily mistaking its form for an ordinary elephant before realizing the truth. The beast revealed itself fully, its towering horns and thick hide unmistakable. This was the behemoth, a creature whose name alone carried the weight of every nightmare from the game's final stretch. Yuri confirmed there was no mistaking it, though he noted something was off, calling it an imitation rather than the real thing. Elsewhere, the headmaster shouted for everyone to evacuate the students immediately, his expression darkening as he realized the timing was no coincidence. A creature appearing out of nowhere like this, right as the festival ended, could not have been random chance. Panic spread through the crowd as students scattered, screaming that a monster had appeared, urging each other to run as chaos swallowed the school grounds. Alice studied the beast with narrowed eyes, explaining that something like this, an imitation of a magic beast, was far beyond what any ordinary human could produce. Her voice turned cold as she realized the implication. They had been targeting the students all along. Yuri's muttered that it felt just like the field trip incident, the memory clearly unwelcome. Before they could process the threat further, someone shouted a warning as a horde of goblins surged forward alongside the beast, their snarling faces closing in from every direction. Amid the commotion, Elena realized with horror that Celia was still inside the school building. Al's eyes widened as the danger became clear. The monsters were heading straight for the building, and there were still students trapped inside. The behemoth let out a low, mocking sound as it prepared to strike. Someone shouted for Al to move, urging him to get out of the way as the beast's attack tore through the ground with tremendous force, while a cold voice in the distance simply told someone to go make a scene. Inside, one of the black-cloaked figures observed the destruction with satisfaction, remarking that the girl's power had certainly caused a commotion. Her companion agreed that everything was proceeding exactly as Yoru had planned. Celia demanded they let her go, but the hooded man carrying her only continued forward, stating flatly that he was taking the girl back first, exactly as planned. His calm was suddenly broken by a burst of light and force as someone struck at him. Elena stood ready with her blade drawn, ordering one of the enemies, Dodora, to fall back while she confronted the man directly. Startled by the sudden appearance of a rock-hard arm blocking her strike, she demanded to know who these people were. The man himself seemed thrown off, muttering that this wasn't part of the plan. Grinning, the hooded man raised his hand mockingly and bid a casual farewell, sinking into the ground and vanishing along with Celia in his grasp. Elena rushed forward, shouting for Celia to wait, stunned to see the man had slipped straight into the earth using some form of magic she hadn't expected from an enemy like him. In the aftermath, another cloaked figure stepped forward from the shadows, declaring herself Elena's new opponent as the fight shifted directly to her. The two clashed immediately, blades and magic colliding in a burst of sparks and light, as neither side backed down. The cloaked woman snarled that this fight didn't concern Elena and told her to stand down. Elena refused outright, declaring on the name of House Persia that she would never abandon a friend, insisting that the enemy had no right to call her involvement an insult. The woman sneered, calling it a far greater sin to abandon a friend just to survive, before turning the question back on Elena, asking if she had a death wish for standing her ground. Elena responded with a defensive technique from her family's swordsmanship, its form flowing and precise as she read her opponent's movements, redirecting each strike with controlled parries. Her counterattack activated a technique known as turning bloom, her blade twisting through the air with practiced elegance as she turned the momentum of the fight in her favor. The enemy recognized the skill for what it was, the blade of a prodigy. The flower of Persia said to surpass even the royal knights. Caught off guard by the counter that used her own force against her, she could only react in stunned disbelief as Elena's technique struck true. Mina lowered her weapon abruptly, her expression unreadable as she pulled back from the strike she had every chance to land. Elena stared at her, breathing hard, demanding to know why she had stopped mid-attack. Mina only echoed the question back to herself, as if she didn't fully understand her own hesitation either. Elena pressed further, reminding her sharply that she had already made herself clear. She would not tolerate being insulted. She pointed out that Mina could have easily run her through in that moment. Yet she hadn't. Elena's resolve stayed firm as she declared plainly that she did not abandon her friends, no matter the circumstances or the danger standing in front of her. Something in Mina's frozen posture caught Elena's attention. The black hair, the horns curling from her head, the tail swaying behind her, none of it matched the girl she once knew. Yet Elena said she recognized her all the same, insisting she may look different, but her identity couldn't be hidden. Mina flinched, asking in a shaking voice what Elena meant. Though the accusation had already struck its mark, tears welled in Mina's eyes as she finally said the name aloud. Admitting it was her, Mina standing before Elena despite everything that had changed about her appearance. She explained brokenly that it was because Elena was her friend that she couldn't bring herself to finish the fight. Elena's expression softened only slightly as she asked what exactly was happening, demanding answers. Mina managed to say it was all right, insisting weakly that she was on Elena's side despite everything. Before the conversation could continue, a sudden blow struck Elena from behind, her guard having slipped in the moment of distraction. She realized too late that another enemy had been lying in wait the entire time. The attacker, a masked man in a dark hood, taunted her for the opening she'd given him, mocking her carelessness with a sly remark before declaring he'd come to collect her. Nearby, another hooded figure sneered at Mina to stop resisting, casually suggesting they either take her along or simply have some fun with her captive companion first. Grabbing Elena roughly by the hair and calling her a real beauty, Mina's face twisted with rage and grief as she snapped that the only reason she had ever cooperated with the organization called Ragnarok was to help them kidnap the scientists. Nothing more. The men mocked her further, reminding her coldly that they still held her little sister's life in their hands, warning her not to grow arrogant just because she was supposedly Yori's favorite. One added dismissively that babysitting the princess had become a tiresome chore, his tone dripping with contempt as he threatened to kill Elena right where she stood. Using an invisibility technique, the group prepared to disappear entirely, with one of the men explaining that they would leave while Yoru served as the decoy to cover their escape. Mina could only whisper apologies over and over, her voice breaking under the weight of what she'd been forced into. Back with her friends, memories flashed of everyone she cared about, calling them her precious people. Meanwhile, Al pushed himself forward with everything he had, gasping for breath as he desperately apologized under his breath, finally reaching Elena's side and crying out her name as he found her collapsed on the ground. Yoru stood at the center of the destruction, laughing as goblins and imitation beasts tore through the academy grounds around her, commanding her monsters to run wild and tear the place apart without restraint. Amid the rampage, Professor Gunshow moved through the horde with practiced ease, cutting down a charging behemoth's trunk in a single decisive strike. Students watching from a distance marveled that such strength was exactly what they expected from their headmaster. Yoru greeted him with mock familiarity, calling him the strongest magic swordsman the academy had ever produced. Gunshow responded coldly, noting it had been a long time since they'd last met. He demanded to know why she was attacking her own alma mater, reminding her she had graduated at the top of her class. Yoru's silhouette rose against the sky as she declared this assault was meant to celebrate the end of the three great powers that ruled the world, brushing off his words about being her brilliant former student. Gunshow's expression darkened further as he realized the scope of her ambition, asking if she intended to target the church and the royal palace as well. Not just the academy. Yoru only smiled, remarking idly on the time before vanishing from his reach entirely, leaving him grasping at nothing as she called him her beloved teacher on her way out. Alone with the wreckage, Gunshow reflected bitterly that a country girl graduating as valedictorian had always seemed too good to be true. As the illusion magic dispersed and the imitation monsters faded away, he recalled the promise she once made to use her magic for the happiness of others, and could only ask quietly why she had betrayed everything she once believed in. Elena woke with a start, disoriented and unsure of her surroundings. Al explained gently that she was in the infirmary and asked if she was all right. Elena struggled to piece together what had happened, then remembered with horror that Celia had been kidnapped, prompting a wave of alarm as she asked where Celia and Mina had gone. Overcome with guilt, Al apologized to Celia in his mind, blaming himself for failing to protect her from every threat. He clenched his fists, vowing not to forgive whoever was responsible, while Elena added that the man who took her hadn't acted alone. Elena described the attacker in detail, a massive man cloaked in black with skin like solid rock, who had dragged Celia into the ground and disappeared with her. Then she revealed the harder truth. It had been Mina who attacked her. Al's shock was immediate, and Elena admitted uncertainly that whatever Mina had become, she wasn't human anymore, leaving Al desperate to understand what she meant. Elena described what she'd witnessed, a figure that resembled a magic beast more than a person, horned and clawed, likely what people called a heretic. She explained further that according to the Kriana Church, such beings were branded blasphemers, born from a forbidden union between human and beast. Al refused to accept it outright, insisting Mina couldn't be so different from the friend they knew. Though Elena admitted she wasn't certain, only that the Mina she saw looked nothing like herself. Still, Al held on to his conviction. No matter what she looked like now, she was still their friend, and there had to be a reason behind what she'd done. Elena's gaze softened as memories of their time together surfaced, and she agreed quietly that he was right. Piecing things together, Al reasoned that if heretics were outcasts gathered together, then the giant who had taken Celia might belong to the same group as Mina, some kind of organized force operating in the shadows. Elsewhere, in a private thought, the situation echoed something eerily familiar, a cult kidnapping the scientist with intent to assassinate her, only for the protagonist's quick thinking to save her and deepen their bond. One of the pivotal heroine events straight out of the game. That role was supposed to belong to someone else entirely. The realization struck hard. That event only occurred in the story because the villain, Alba, conspired with the cult out of spite toward the heroine. But this time, Alba insisted he had nothing to do with any of it. The confusion deepened. If Mina was merely a background character with no connection to the main plot, why had she been the one drawn into this scheme, seemingly left to fill a void that fate never intended for her? Back in the infirmary, a voice startled everyone present. Al immediately asked Elena if they had any leads on where Celia had been taken, and she admitted apologetically that she didn't know, having been caught off guard and knocked unconscious before she could see more. When Al confirmed no one else should be in the room, a new voice interrupted. Riley noting that peeping was a rather terrible hobby. The voice belonged to Lily, who emerged apologizing for missing her chance to speak up sooner, revealing she had heard everything. Elena was startled to learn Lily had been present and had even witnessed the battle firsthand. Al explained that Lily belonged to the Phoenix group and possessed the rare ability to use invisibility magic, a skill so ancient that virtually no known users remained. Tension flared as more classmates gathered, one of them furious that Celia had been taken and demanding to know why Lily hadn't intervened to help. Lily replied calmly that she couldn't act without knowing for certain which side was truly in the right. When accused of dishonoring the House of Persia's name, Elena defended her, saying Lily simply moved at her own pace before turning the conversation back to what mattered. Lily confirmed she had a clue, stating Celia should still be located somewhere within the girls' locker room. Al held Elena close as she wept against him, gently resting a hand on her head. With quiet determination in his eyes, he made her a solemn promise he would save both Celia and Mina, no matter what it took. Elena thanked him softly through her tears, her voice trembling with exhaustion and relief. He told her to rest and wait for their return, praising the effort she had already given in the battle that had left her wounded. Lily reported what she had uncovered. When the imitation magic beasts had appeared, she traced their source of power and witnessed Mina's transformation, along with the abduction of the scientist Celia by a hooded giant. Since Elena's fall in battle, Lily had focused entirely on assessing the situation to determine the truth of what happened. Al listened closely, then asked what clue she had found. Lily explained her reasoning. The earth magic used by the giant who took Celia required an enormous amount of power to burrow underground, meaning a trace of his magical signature had to remain. Al questioned whether tracking such a faint fragment was even possible for an ordinary student. Lily's expression sharpened as she sensed a faint trace of magic lingering in the air. All admired her resolve, remarking that as the disciple of the sage and the most skilled magic user among the heroines, she was more than capable. Lily asked him to lend her his strength, declaring she would do whatever it took to save her precious friends. All reflected silently. Logically, letting Celia disappear would keep him further from his own death flag. Yet he refused to accept that outcome. He chose to follow his heart instead of logic. Lily stepped forward and declared she was on his side, insisting that following their hearts was the right thing to do. No matter the risk, beyond the academy walls near the distant castle and jagged mountains, someone skidded to a stop in the wilderness. Breathing hard, a young man knelt on the rocky ground, gasping for air after a long pursuit. Alice called out to Yuri's, having chased him down using her falcon's wings after he suddenly bolted from the academy. Yuri's apologized, explaining he had found something only for Alice to ask, confused, who exactly he meant. Yuri's pieced together the truth. He recalled the headmaster speaking to someone while facing down a rampaging behemoth, and once the magic beast vanished, he witnessed that same figure leap from the behemoth's back and fly away. Alice realized he had tracked down the culprit behind the academy's attack, and Yuri's confirmed he had been chasing the figure ever since. Despite his effort, Yuri's admitted defeat even using his overboost. The enemy had completely outrun him. Alice was stunned, noting he was faster than the swiftest horse. A shadowy, ragged silhouette loomed in their thoughts, a reminder that whoever attacked the academy was no ordinary opponent. As night fell, Alice asked whether they should turn back. Fresh footprints on the ground caught their attention, clearly belonging to the culprit. Alice volunteered to handle it, invoking her anima, change ability, and transforming into a sharp-eyed, sharp-nosed dog to track the scent, promising it would lead them straight to their target. Yuri's praised her effort as they pressed onward through the rocky terrain and into the night beneath a pale moon. Elsewhere, Lily confirmed to Al that she could still sense the magic traces guiding them. Noting they had already come a considerable distance, Al carried Lily on his back, urging her to hold on tight as they moved swiftly through the dark. She agreed cheerfully, clinging to him as they raced forward. Beneath the full moon, an ancient crumbling structure rose from the shadowed mountains, its long staircase leading toward a fortress swallowed by ruin. Al called out Celia's name, silently vowing to wait no longer. Inside, robed figures chanted in fervor, hailing the arrival of someone called Ragnarok as skeletal magic surged around a throne. They celebrated the saintess's capture, proclaiming the coming of the god-killing ritual under the name of Lord Yoru. Elsewhere, Celia lay unconscious on cold stone, and a voice within her swore desperately that she would be saved. As the ritual pressed forward, she stirred weakly, murmuring Al's name before the chapter closed on the promise of what was still to come. Celia stirs awake on cold stone floor, confused about her surroundings. She recognizes the barred window and realizes she is locked inside a prison cell. Memory returns to her slowly, and she recalls being ambushed and abducted by Mina and the others who serve Ragnarok. A voice greets her from beyond the bars. A woman with half-white, half-black hair introduces herself as Yoru, leader of the organization called Ragnarok, the group responsible for kidnapping Celia. She addresses Celia only as Saintess. Celia demands to know why she was taken and what Yoru intends to do with her. Yoru answers simply that they are planning a festival, leaving Celia bewildered by the strange response. Celia presses further, confused about what kind of festival Yoru could mean. Yoru clarifies with a wide grin that Celia herself is the guest of honor for this event. Yoru reveals Ragnarok's true purpose. They intend to slaughter the being the Kriana Church worships as the goddess of fate. Their plan is nothing less than the killing of a god itself, and Celia reacts in shock at the scale of what Yoru is describing. Yoru begins to explain her hatred toward the goddess, describing her as a distant figure who never reveals her face and merely watches the world from afar despite receiving endless prayers and worship from mortals. She continues, pointing out the goddess's indifference. While the greedy fight wars and gorge themselves on pleasure without consequence, the weak who starve or suffer from disease receive no help or mercy from her at all. Yoru bluntly calls the goddess a discriminatory being, asking Celia directly whether she agrees with that harsh judgment. Celia protests weakly from behind the bars, insisting that the goddess does not discriminate, and that she is a loving mother who grants destiny to the lost and watches over them. Yoru mocks her response, reminding Celia that she is the only woman in the entire world chosen to receive the goddess's favor, blessed with the so-called holy power. Yoru finds it almost funny that Celia, of all people, would defend her so earnestly. Leaning closer to the bars, Yoru delivers her real point. She tells Celia that being the sole recipient of that divine blessing makes her the very embodiment of the goddess's discrimination. Yoru suddenly reaches through the bars and grabs Celia by the collar, yanking her forward with violent force. Celia cries out in shock as Yoru's expression twists into something cold and merciless. Yoru declares her intent plainly. Since the goddess refuses to show herself, Yoru will kill her proxy instead, meaning Celia, as a stand-in for the god she cannot reach. Yoru forces Celia down against the floor, pinning her while Celia coughs and struggles beneath the pressure. Yoru tells her to spend her remaining time cursing the goddess who handed her this fate, adding that her execution will be held as a public spectacle, fitting for a festival. Celia's thoughts drift into memory. She recalls once thanking the goddess of fate sarcastically for the destiny bestowed upon her since birth, joking that she was only kidding, though she also reflects that the church would likely keep praying regardless of how cruel that fate turned out to be. The memory deepens into her childhood. Her father tells young Celia that her fate comes bundled with grueling trials, yet she has also been blessed with the goddess's protection, the holy power. He instructs her not to let that fate break her, urging her to use her power for the world and for the people. Young Celia agrees enthusiastically, even as knights clash in war behind them, some crying out to protect the scientist while enemies scream to capture her instead. More scattered images from her past appear, showing the weight of her position across the years. She reflects that the scientist is destined to live alongside harsh trials forever, an unbroken cycle stretching from childhood into adulthood. Another voice enters her memory, promising her that if the fate she was given makes her cry, she should simply run away, and if she has nowhere left to run, that person will be her refuge instead. Celia's inner thought interrupts the memory, admitting that she had completely forgotten this promise until now. The memory sharpens into clarity. A cheerful young man stands beside her, and Celia recalls that it was because he stayed by her side that she learned it was okay to fight back against a destiny she hated. She admits she is grateful for the fate she was given, but the sentence trails off, unfinished as her feelings shift into resolve. Back in the present, Celia's eyes snap open with sudden determination. She declares to Yoru that she rejects that kind of destiny entirely and absolutely refuses to be killed, her voice firm despite still being restrained beneath her captor's grip. The despair that gripped her moments earlier is replaced by defiance, setting the stage for what comes next. Celia mentions that they could make the goddess taste the loss instead. Yoru dismisses the idea that killing her will change anything, insisting the goddess won't die that way, but Yoru simply replies that it is too bad, since she is killing Celia anyway and telling her to offer her life up to the goddess. Yoru's expression twists into something colder, revealing her true motive. She isn't just after the goddess through Celia's death, she wants to inflict the pain of losing a precious human, aiming the cruelty directly at whoever cherishes Celia most. She adds that it will also be a perfect way to wipe the smug look off the faces of the bigoted people ruling the world. Laughing as she says it, tears fall silently from Celia as she kneels, defeated and powerless against Yoru's blade raised behind the bars. In this moment of despair, she quietly whispers a name into the dark, calling out for Alba. The scene shifts outside the hideout where Alba stands with Lily on a ridge overlooking the ruins. He suddenly stops before rushing through the front entrance, recalling that storming the main gate of this particular building is a guaranteed way to get wrecked, remembering dozens of traps and ambush attacks that would be waiting for anyone foolish enough to charge. Lily questions how Alba could possibly know something so specific. In his mind, he explains that this knowledge comes from having played through this exact scenario in the game, admitting he had to look up a walkthrough after getting so many game overs at this very spot. Trying to sound confident, he tells Lily there is a back door on the other side of the building. Alba silently reassures himself with certainty, thinking that Celia will survive no matter what, since this whole event is simply a clearable stage in the game called Rescue, the Scientist. In a flashback, Celia had asked Alba to save Mina as well, worried for the girl who had betrayed her. Alba agrees without hesitation, promising he'll rescue her too. Lily, listening quietly nearby, comments afterward that this entire unfolding crisis feels irregular, unlike anything that existed in the original game's story. She realizes the deviation traces back to one specific factor, Mina, whose actions apparently pushed events outside the boundaries of what the game once dictated. Back in the present, Alba tells Lily plainly that he already explained his reasoning, admitting she has caught his interest. Lily, standing over him with a playful glint in her eyes, declares she wants to help. Curious to see more of his magic in action, Alba internally grumbles that more hands joining the fight is good in theory, but it also brings him closer to another one of his death flags. Lily, unaware of his inner panic, comments cheerfully that this is exactly the kind of pattern that raises her affection toward him. Determined, Alba lifts Lily onto his back as they prepare to move, declaring aloud that this whole mission is to save Celia and everyone else caught up in this scheme. Lily responds eagerly, and the two of them launch forward together into the night, racing toward the ruins ahead. Elsewhere, Yuri's and his companion Alice approach the same ruined temple from a different direction. Yuri's asks if this is truly the place, and Alice confirms it, explaining that the scent trail she picked up is leading straight toward the entrance of the structure. Yuri's hesitates before moving further, deciding they don't yet know how many enemies could be lurking inside. He suggests it would be wiser to return to the academy first and report the location of the hideout rather than risk storming in blind before they can retreat. However, Alice suddenly tells him to hide, warning that she hears footsteps approaching. Two cloaked cult members walk nearby, complaining to each other that nobody would ever come all the way out to a place this remote, telling their partner to stop being so paranoid. The other snaps back, insisting they should take the watch seriously. Instead of getting careless, the cultists continue their conversation, remarking that midnight has finally arrived, calling it the hour of the goddess and the festival they have been anxiously waiting for. One admits that being this close to their long-planned goal has him on edge. Hidden nearby, Yuri's quietly repeats the word festival to himself, uneasy about what it could mean. The cultists boast to each other that this night, those bigoted people who wronged them will finally be made to regret everything. Alice reacts with alarm, connecting the pieces together and asking in disbelief if the kidnapped scientist they're discussing could really be Celia. The horrifying truth is confirmed as the cultists explain their plan for God-killing, revealing they intend to use the kidnapped scientist as a blood sacrifice to carry it out. Yuri freezes upon hearing this, muttering that the situation has just become far worse than they anticipated. Unable to hold back, Yuri steps forward with his sword drawn, demanding to know if what he just overheard is true. The cultists react with surprise, mocking him as just some cocky little noble kid who wandered into the wrong place, while Yuri presses harder, shouting at them to answer whether they really kidnapped the scientist. One cultist recognizes Yuri's uniform, identifying him as a student from Kriana Academy, dismissing him further as a spoiled noble boy who doesn't belong here. Yuri refuses to back down, demanding again to know whether the scientist is truly being held inside, warning them not to anger him further as he grips his blade tightly, insisting they answer his question. Honestly, the cultists laugh mockingly, confirming that yes, the scientist is indeed being kept inside their hideout, taunting Yuri by pretending to be terrified of him. They gleefully describe their plan to torture her slowly to death, boasting that afterward they will chop her body into pieces and scatter the remains across the capital for everyone to see. Hearing this, something inside Yuri finally snaps. In a burst of controlled fury, he moves with blinding speed, cutting down both cultists before they can react, his blade flashing through the darkness as their bodies are thrown backward by the force of his strikes. Alice watches nearby, quietly noting that Yuri is absolutely furious, his calm exterior completely shattered by what he just heard. Later, in a calmer moment, someone asks Yuri teasingly how it felt meeting his idol, the scientist herself. He admits sheepishly that he was ecstatic, obviously starstruck by the encounter. Alice interrupts with mock offense, snapping that she already apologized for something, insisting that Celia is simply too cute for her own good, while a narrating aside notes dryly that groping the scientist's chest is surely asking for divine punishment. Yuri continues to reflect, admitting that Celia turned out to be an even more wonderful woman than he had ever imagined. Even a brief conversation with her carried such warmth. He says that it felt soothing just being near her. Alice cuts in with sharp commentary, remarking that Celia is special to both of them, and especially to Yuri. Yuri's protests confused how she twisted his words into something completely different, calling her an idiot for jumping to conclusions. Alice smirks behind her mask, teasing him further and asking if he is really saying he wants to grope her chest too. Before the argument can continue, something catches Alice's attention nearby. She calls out to Yuri, telling him to look closely at the faces of the cultists lying defeated on the ground. Yuri freezes as he studies them, realizing they don't look human at all, questioning aloud whether they might actually be magic beasts. Alice clarifies that they were fully capable of communicating like people, ruling out simple beasts. As the two study the twisted, monstrous features, both react in horror, uncertain what they're truly looking at. Yuri blurts out the possibility neither of them wants to say aloud, wondering in shock if these creatures could actually be heretics. He reasons that they fit the description perfectly, since kidnapping the scientist would be considered the ultimate insult against the gods according to church teachings, marking them as blasphemers who defy divine providence and existences that must be punished for their crimes. Determined now more than ever, Yuri rushes forward up the ancient stone steps leading into the ruins, shouting Celia's name into the darkness and promising that he and Alice are coming to save her. Alice follows close behind, cheering him on and confirming they're moving forward together without hesitation. Deep inside the hideout, Yoru notices the growing commotion echoing from the entrance, remarking coldly that it is getting awfully noisy outside. Her subordinates respond eagerly, one agreeing to handle it under her orders while another suggests they politely ask their uninvited guests to leave, sarcasm dripping from the offer.